Hi, so today I wanted to talk about a personal experience that I thought would be helpful to share with other parents. I'm a father of three kids, and I thought this would be relevant not only as a therapist, but also just as a parent. And so I wanted to talk about, I know there's been a lot of news stories lately and articles written about, screenings and like mental health screenings for kids. So, doing like the article I read was about doing anxiety screenings and that sort of thing. And I just wanted to talk about my experience. So, being a therapist and a father, in some ways you'd think, oh, I would be, this would be easy for me to do a screening with my kids because I do this kind of thing for a living and, I'm an expert and that sort of thing. But when I tried this with one of my kids, it was interesting. I almost felt more nervous, and I haven't had a chance to ask other therapists that are parents whether they think it's worse to be a therapist and that you're more nervous. But I thought it would be worth sharing my experience a little bit, and then also giving some tips as a professional and also as someone that tried this with their own child. So I chose to do more of like a depression, we call it depression inventory, but depression screening. You can find them online. I just chose one that seemed pretty relevant. And a couple of thoughts I wanted to share about these things. So in my experience, screenings aren't like exact science. A lot of what we do in mental health is really a lot of the gray area, right? Trying to figure out, how someone's doing generally speaking. So I didn't care so much whether someone scores a 7 or a 6 on a scale of 0 to 10. It's not any sort of magical number in my mind, but it was more of just learning about how someone's doing and are they on the higher edge or the lower edge, and is this more of a crisis or is this more of something that can be addressed, with a bit more pace and that sort of thing, and potentially build closeness with our kids, which I think is probably a lot of us parents want that. So there's a bunch of needs that are being met by doing this. So, but my experience was just, yeah, I was really nervous about it. I had a hard time doing it. I avoided it. I had the screening tool picked out that I wanted to use, and I looked at it to make sure it wasn't too intense. And then it took me, I don't know, I think it took me like almost 2 3 weeks before I had sort of the courage to go up and just go talk to, I don't want to say who my kid was because in case I don't know, just for anonymity. But I just, it took me a while to get kind of the courage to do it. But I'm, very thankful and glad I did. It turned out it wasn't anything more than I kind of thought, so about where I was expecting, but it was helpful to have that reassurance that that's kind of where it was. And so a lot of the questions on the inventory are things like about mood and sleep, and also the scariest one is about, thoughts of suicide or self-harm. So that's always, although a hard one to ask, it's a really good one for us to know as parents and also as professionals to kind of know how serious this is, right? Most mental health problems are very treatable, but if somebody were to act on those thoughts of suicide, then that really is the ultimate consequence in a major crisis, something you can't go back from. So, waiting to do these screening forms can be a little bit dangerous in that sense. But I can cover that maybe in another video. But I guess I just wanted to kind of share that I do believe it's normal to feel uncomfortable to do this with your children. And I also think there's no shame in that. So a big part of anxiety relief is really accepting that it's okay to be nervous, and it's even okay completely to avoid it. And that's where you can then try to get a professional to do this for you or with you. And so there's no shame in that either, that you can get a consultant or a therapist to meet with your child and to do that assessment, or a parent coach of some sort. So that's the other piece too. If you find yourself not able to do it and you really want it done, there's ways to kind of offload that onto someone that may just be able to do that without, all the avoidance. So just a couple tips I'm thinking about. So one, I would say, if you're a parent that's considering these things, is go for it. Like, it's kind of a lot of times with anxiety, you have to just sort of get in there and then figure it out once you get in. So if you do too much planning or thinking about it, you'll never do it. But just kind of go for it. Go approach, your son or daughter, and have the assessment there, and just say, I want to talk to you about this. I'd like you to do this with me. And that's what I did. I just said, hey, I have something I'd like you to fill out. And together we decided that we would do it together, which is even more powerful because you get to hear the ins and outs of how he or she is answering the questions. And that's the most valuable part of these assessments, in my opinion, is really hearing the backstory. Why are you choosing, 3/4? And tell me about a little bit. So it ended up being about a 25-minute conversation, nothing crazy, nothing super long, but really was nice to hear like the inner world and just learn more and kind of develop that closeness. And I think it really opens the door for more of those conversations later. So that's my first tip, is just, kind of go for it. And it's okay if you're nervous. So I have a few notes here, but it's okay if you're nervous. Don't be ashamed, and that's okay. Just accept that. The other part I think is more of a technical thing, but really being open. So, not leading the witness, quote, taking them down a path, but really be open to either answer, whether it's a dangerous, scary answer, or whether it's a relieving answer. Okay, gosh, he's doing, he or she's doing so much better. So really being open to both sides of the coin. That's important in how you ask the question, because if you can taint these assessments by, really suggesting what you want the answer to be. So be careful of that and be open to hearing both. And it's okay to even admit, these are hard. It's hard to hear how, he or she is struggling, but I'm glad I can be there for support. We can figure this out together, kind of thing. So that's one part. And then I think just in that process, trying to have the courage to show and tell, how you feel, that you're there for support, no matter if it's good or bad, or if there's troubles down the road, or if there's troubles now. You really are there to be a supportive influence, and you're not there to necessarily solve the problem, but you're there to kind of figure it out together. And that's also a chance to give, like, your father or your motherly advice, and kind of hard to do that when we're on the spot, but I think we all have a lot of things that we could say if we got into those moments. And so have confidence that you might be able to say a few nuggets of cool things in that place, and you're planting the seed for later, and you're building that relationship. So I don't want to come across as some expert on this now because I did it, but as a counselor, I do think I could speak to, this is how I handle when I work with clients, or how we work with clients here at Palo Alto Therapy. But I did want to share some personal stories for parents that this may be of help. And I'm really proud of myself for doing it. And I think I would love to see more parents do this and open that conversation up. I think a lot of us want to be closer to our kids, but we struggle with, how to do that. And this was one specific example of how you can try it. But if you'd like more, kind of coaching or thoughts or advice and that kind of stuff, then you can always contact a mental health professional or one of our therapists here at Palo Alto Therapy. So anyway, just hopefully that was helpful, and you enjoyed this brief video. Okay, thank you. Take care.